The NCAA Final Four for the men and women's is now set. It is Alabama versus UConn, 4 seed versus 1 seed, and it is the 11 seed NC State versus the 1 seed Purdue on the men's side. And on the women's side, it's UConn versus Iowa, the third versus the one, and it is NC State versus South Carolina, the three versus the one as well.
Yeah, I did not think UConn. I do not think anyone in this tournament is going to be able to stop UConn. They completely blew out San Diego State by 30. Went on to the next game, won by 25 over the Illinois team that looked very good against Iowa State in the game before. I don't think anyone has an answer to Clingan in the entire NCAA except maybe Edey. I mean, I'm feeling good about that as my pick to win the championship. How about you guys?
Klingan is a better individual player than Edey, definitely. And the only thing that would make it so Edey wins that individual matchup is the three people on the court who aren't dribbling the ball, if you catch my drift there. We have some really interesting big men left in the tournament here. We got big old Asian guy, big fat black guy, and then two skinny white guys on the other side. You just don't see them like this in the NBA. This is why college basketball is beautiful.
I think UConn's pretty cemented to go to the finals here, especially if the other team decides not to score for 50 real life minutes. It's gonna be pretty tough. I think Alabama will put up a fight, but I do think UConn will edge them out there.
And then the other side, we have Alabama, who plays a top 10 pace in the NCAA, and Connecticut, who's like number 320 or something. So it'll be a really big clash of styles there to see who wins out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think before the tournament I had Alabama slated to face. I think I had them facing St. Mary's, or it was a comparison that we made in early episodes. So, but it seems like in the tournament, the higher pace has actually won out. It seems. So, but I think UConn is just a little bit too good for Alabama. NC State Purdue, I would say NC State probably wins that. It will mostly depend on Purdue shooters and if DJ Burns fouls out guarding Edey, if he does indeed match up with him. But I like Burns in the post versus Edey. Like, he has a solid post game. He has more than two moves, unlike Edey. So I think he'll still be able to get a shot off, even if he's matched up one-on-one with Edey. So I like them on that.
I agree with that. When NC State's on offense, I think Burns can definitely handle his way around Edey. I will say Burns is a little bit shorter than he looks. I think he's 6'8", 6'9", or something. So if he's going one-on-one with Edey when Edey's in the post, I don't see how Burns can handle that without fouling. And given that Edey already has a pretty strong whistle, which is kind of an understatement, I think we could see Burns either fouling out or just getting stuff put over his head by the 6 inches taller Edey.
Yeah, he's a 6'9", 275.
Fascinating physique.
Indeed. But I actually like he's got the lower center of gravity versus Edey. I don't think Edey's going to be able to just plow his way through. He's matched up with Burns there, so it'll definitely be a close one. Both sides, I would imagine. So it should be a pretty interesting Final Four.
Burns is so fun to watch, man.
I'd give Burns the edge in a one-on-one matchup there, just because his playmaking is on another level compared to Edey. He makes some ridiculous passes that Zach and I were talking about this the other day. Kind of makes us want to launch Jokic prop, like compare him to guys like that. He's maybe not quite on that level, but he makes some really fun passes for a big man.
Yeah, definitely. I think Edey's playmaking is not bad, but all his playmaking is just kicking out to the three. Like, that's about it. He's pretty much, from what I've seen, he's pretty much just relied from taking two dribbles, picking up his dribble, and either turning for a right-handed hook over his left shoulder. That's about all he has, or just a kick out to the three.
Yeah, with him, it really is one of three options. It's drop step, hook, or kick out. And I think the hook, he'll probably be working on. He'll be working DJ Burns pretty hard, I think. Drop step, I think what you're saying about that lower center of gravity and Burns being just a big old fella, I think that might not go so well for Edey, but yeah, I mean, he'll make some kickouts. Purdue's better out on the perimeter than NC State. I would say Purdue wins this pretty handily.
Yeah, I'd have to agree just because I think NC State is going to send doubles at Edey, and he is a good enough playmaker to make the kick out, and their shooters around him are just ridiculous. I think they're the top 3-point shooting team in the nation. So I'd have to give the edge to Purdue as a team, even though I think Burns is going to get the better of Edey in the one-on-one matchup.
Yeah, I think Purdue shoots like 41% from three as a team. So, I mean, I think if they get that or anything higher, then they probably don't have a chance. But, I mean, NC State has handled all the higher seeds that they've been put in front of. So, we'd also look to see if they get Edey in foul trouble, that could change the entire dynamic of the game, where Edey kind of is, they just jump it down to the post and they rely on him to like kind of suck the gravity inside more, where they can get kick-out shooters. So I think if Edey probably picks up 3 fouls in that first half, I would say NC State wins, and especially if he fouls out, that'd be huge. But outside of that, yeah, I would say Purdue would win that one. But I have faith in NC State, I think.
I think we gave enough attention to UConn, Alabama, honestly.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to go into more detail, we could.
I mean, I think we all know which way that's going.
Yeah. I mean, Dan Hurley's a madman. UConn is just a machine on both ends of the floor. I think that might be a 20-point game, honestly.
So it looks like we all have Purdue versus UConn in the final. Who do you guys like in that matchup?
It's hard to pick against UConn, even though I think that would be a close game because all the individual matchups are pretty good in that one. I do just think UConn is better coached and has better talent by a slight margin. So yeah, I'm sticking with UConn like I have since the beginning.
I'm with UConn as well. I did pick NC State. That is my official pick, is NC State. So you can put me on the record on that. It's obviously they're the underdog, but if it were to be Purdue, UConn, that'd be a tough one. And I think the way Purdue has been playing, I don't see how anyone can beat somebody when their player is getting like 20 free throws a game. I would like to pick UConn since that's why I picked from the beginning. But I think if the Alabama-UConn game is close and down to the wire and Purdue blows out NC State, then I would probably pick Purdue, just if they get to kind of chill back and rest their players a little bit, since it is a rather quick turnaround. I mean, it's like 48 hours. That's a decent turnaround. Like, I feel like Illinois kind of ran out of steam because they played Iowa State really down to the wire, and they just seemed kind of burnt out that next Saturday. So I'd say, just based on how everything's going right now, probably Purdue, just by a hair.
But you're going NC State officially.
Yeah. It's a hypothetical if Purdue beats NC State, yeah. If it's NC State versus UConn, I'd take UConn pretty easily.
I think I'm definitely leaning UConn Purdue as my two going into it. I would pick UConn in that matchup. I think Purdue, it's tough, man. Edey really gets all those calls. I think if he sneaks out 20 free throws again, I don't see how UConn can overcome that. But I'm going to hope that was just a fluke and say UConn defensively is going to slow down Purdue's yards. I think they're far better defensively than Purdue. And it's going to probably be a pretty low-scoring game, but I pick UConn officially. Put it on the books.
We'll start with you, Zach. Who do you have as the most outstanding player for the men's side?
My most outstanding player is going to be Donovan Clingan from UConn. He was causing all sorts of problems versus Illinois. I can see him winning the matchup versus Edey down low, which will really impress fans, I think. And yeah, he's just, I think, the best big in college basketball when you look at it from a skill perspective and also, readiness for the league.
Yeah, I agree. I also have Clingan, because whether they go, assuming they beat Alabama, obviously, they'll have to go through either DJ Burns or Zach Edey. So protecting the paint and sort of that matchup is going to be probably the key to them winning that. And I feel like with a lot of these awards, it kind of goes to like the finals MVP in the NBA. it kind of goes to it's kind of based on like the story and the narrative surrounding it. So I do think that if he wins that matchup in the finals, then it's a no-brainer if he does well and gets a double and controls the paint and everything. So yeah, that's my pick as well.
Gonna make sure I don't fit in here. I'm going to pick Cam Spencer, actually, for pretty much the same reasons you guys went with Clingan, except I think playing against Grant Nelson from Alabama and then either Burns or Edey, they're going to be running Clingan in a lot of pick and rolls to try and get the big guy on to Spencer. And I think that's going to create for him a lot of floaters, a lot of mid-range jumpers, and a lot of kickouts to all their shooters, or even, two Clingan on the roll. And I just think the amount that he's going to be involved in all of their offensive actions, he's going to rack up a lot of stats in the next 2 games, which is what they're looking at for this award. So I think just based on how they're going to play against these teams, he's in a prime position to put up huge numbers. So Cam Spencer.
Not a bad take. Especially it's kind of just we're picking off of UConn because that's who we think is going to win. But yeah,
exactly. It would be kind of insane not to pick a guy from the winning team.
Yeah.
Unless you want him to be beaten to death.
Indeed. For the audience, in 1971, I think it was, what was his name, Nate?
Howard Porter.
Howard Porter was the first and only player to win the most outstanding player, and then he got busted for coke, went to the league, and then was found beat to death in an alley. So less do you want that
just go skim his
player.
Wikipedia.
And that's why I'm giving my most outstanding player to Zach Edey.
For sure, I'd go with South Carolina over NC State just based on how they've only lost 1 game in the past 2 years. It's pretty hard to bet against them, and it's hard to bet against Caitlin Clark in Iowa. So that's probably the finals I would predict there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the star power matchup, so to speak, between Clark and Beckers is pretty close, honestly. Paige Beckers has gotten lost in a lot of the hype of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, but she's up there too. I just think Iowa's supporting cast is better with all the injuries UConn's gone through recently.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I think Iowa was playing some pretty solid defense against LSU. I think, Clark is going to be completely unstoppable. She's going to get hers, but I don't think she has the, top level ability to get, 40 points like Clark has. So I'd lean towards Iowa. I'd lean towards South Carolina again. They've lost 1 game in 2 years. Dawn Staley is an awesome coach.
South Carolina's just a machine. 37-0 right now. I don't really see how any of the 3 remaining teams would stop them on either end. It looks like theirs to lose, honestly.
Yeah, I generally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, my finals pick would definitely be South Carolina over Iowa.
Yeah, agreed.
I'll pick Iowa. Caitlin Clark did, and Iowa did beat South Carolina at some point in the recent history. So it's possible. Probably more. I would say probably more of a 50-50. South Carolina, Iowa, but I'll just take Iowa. Just Caitlin Clark could go ballistic at any point in time and just take over the game.
It's safe to say she's your most outstanding pick then.
Most certainly, yeah. I also think that there probably would be a decent shot if she just keeps dropping 40 in whatever it was. What did she drop in Iowa? She dropped 41, 12, and 7. So I think if she averages anything close to that and makes it to the finals and puts up a fight, that I could see it going to her regardless. But yeah, she's definitely my most outstanding player for the women's side. What about you guys?
I'm going to agree with you. Even though I have South Carolina winning, I think this is a situation where we could very easily see the most outstanding player go into someone not on the winning team. I think Clark, is just a complete force. Especially those assist numbers are what impressed me almost more than the points, because she just elevates that whole team around her. They're not individually super awesome, but she creates great looks because she has so much gravity. And South Carolina doesn't have any like one standout player that is gonna, put up a crazy stat line in the finals or nothing. So I think regardless of the way this goes, I think it's going to Clark either way.
Nate, what about you?
As much as I don't want to see Caitlin Clark beat to death in an alleyway, I do kind of agree with you guys. I'm not sure if they would go with her if she lost. It's hard to say what they're going to choose to do. I do think it's kind of likely, but she's my number one choice. And if they do choose to stick with tradition and go with someone from the winning team, I'd probably say it's Camila Cardoso. But Clark is my official pick.
Get ready to die in an alleyway, buddy.
Stay off the coke.